Okay, then the groups, right? So there was a few groups that was supposed to attack me at a time. It's almost like they mapped it out in such a way that they needed this group to do that, that group to do that. So it was like well prepared. There was also once at a time where it was like I was in a classroom. So it was like a classroom that is on social media, where they had a whole group of psychologists. And to me, I had an encounter with a guy once in Lenasia when I was staying with my daughter. And he was running a a call center in Lenasia South, and it was for Doxa. Doxa SA. They are a church, and it's almost like you could study through them to get X amount of points for university entrance. I know this because I inquired with the guy exactly what was it about, and I think it was actually running from that call center, the way it seemed like to me. Um, so they have like a lot of professors, and they've got, it's a classroom basically. And then what happened was it was almost like they were using me as a social experiment, where they want to see how I react. It's almost like, don't tell her what is going on, let her figure it out on her own. So it was a whole lot of people in a room that was like trying to figure out if I can figure out what is going on. Hence, this was very traumatizing because I did not know what was going on. So it was a lot of confusion. Um, but it was definitely psychiatrists and psychologists that was doing the social experiment. I think that these things do take place without people's knowledge, when it comes to psychology and when it comes to the study of science and things like that. Hence, it was very traumatizing at that time, to figure it out, and very confusing. So they would put people in a group and then they would confuse the group. Um, yeah, it was like almost like a science experiment that they would be doing with people that has got no knowledge of what is going on with them. Yeah. And once I mentioned to the group that I was going to report them, then they all just started, like, it's like the room almost went silent. So, yeah, um, that was one of the things that was going on as well. So, to me, it was like somebody that was closely watching me and keeping an eye on me. Hence, my family also put surveillance cameras in my house, and then they would speak about it on the internet. The other day, I put a chocolate in my fridge. And then they come on the internet. It's almost like they want to spook me. So they come on the internet and they say, "Oh, we all keep our chocolates in the fridge by the egg section," and that's exactly where I put it. It's almost like they want to play mind games. But yeah, it's been going on for decades like this, where they would pay neighbors and they would pay this one and that one, to watch me all the time. Um, it started getting very intense when I was with Azra's dad, with my daughter's father. Then it started getting more intense. Azra always, when I sent her to crèche, Azra then came back with a whole lot of mouth sores. When so I was working, and then I had to leave work to take care of Azra. And then the sexually molesting happened, where Azra was sexually molested by a guy that my niece brought into the yard. And Azra's dad went to go and sleep, and I was waking him, and he was like acting like nothing happened. Next day, he took his things and then he left in a fight and whatever. And yeah, I saw him then 2 weeks later coming back from his friend Eugene that I mentioned in one of the previous videos. It was his best friend. So yeah, Eugene would allow him to have prostitutes over at his place. It's almost like Azra's dad plotted and he targeted me to make sure that he gets me and get me pregnant and married and whatever, and then so that the abuse can happen. Hence, he had Fatima, Caroline, Erasmus. He had her always as a side, and I only found this out later on. Myself and Azra then ended up, my daughter. We ended up in a safe house shelter called Power, through Power, and a safe house shelter was we needed protection orders. Now the reason why I stopped going to the police and I stopped going to, what they did was they put a block on all my phone calls, so my phone calls don't. I don't get no phone calls. I haven't received phone calls for a very, very long time. And it's only certain people is allowed to phone. Then they monitor everything. So from my emails to my everything gets answered by somebody, and then they call her a twin. This was happening through this one friend, Teresa Amara Isak, that I went to college with. So they were using her in a sense to almost like mimic me. And then Teresa brought an ex Zunaid in my life, and everything like just went haywire. It was like just crazy. So they would triangulate me with him and his wife, and almost make it look like I broke them up. But it was actually the other way around. So every possible scenario was like traumatizing, and every possible scenario was like actually crazy. Um, but yeah, to me it seemed like it was scenarios that was being created so that I can go crazy, so that I can have a mental breakdown. That's the way it seems like to me. um yeah, to like damage me with trauma to such an extent where I do have a mental breakdown. And the time where I protested, also when I did protest, what happened was I went then to the main road to protest further, by the main road and the stop street. And then two taxis pulled up in front of me, almost like they're blocking my car from being noticed by the public. So every time I tried to protest, I was stopped. Every time I try to go to the police, I get stopped. Every time I go to the courts, the dockets get missing. So yeah, then I came to social media and I started posting my story on um, on YouTube and TikTok, and yeah.